Hi, everyone. My name is Mart McClellan, president of McClellan Management. And on behalf of my partner, Tim Stride, and the McClellan team, we'd like to welcome you to this episode of McClellan Live. We're extremely excited to have one of our own speak this evening, Mr. Seth Huling. He's one of our investment strategists, as well as our chief compliance officer, as well as our AI tech guy. So Seth is spinning a lot of plates. But what I'll say is, with the information he has in his head with the AI, grab your surfboard. We're going to be on a tsunami, and we're going to have a great conversation in the next 40 to 45 minutes. So Seth, take it away, and I'll come back in a minute.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mart, for the introduction. I am happy to be here, and I'm excited to share some information, hopefully to help the audience feel more confident in navigating the future around this technological shift that we're all looking at here. It is important to highlight, though, here at the beginning, I want to put out there that I am not an AI expert or an engineer, but I do follow the topic closely, and I have for some time. So I do understand the general concepts, and I'm able to share some actionable steps that anyone who's on the call this evening, it can take those steps and begin leveraging AI to their advantage. And so to that end, we put together a brief agenda here for this evening's event with a few different topics.
Yep, and so the agenda is going to start out with some basics. AI is just a very hot topic. Everybody's talking about it. But there's some who have a deeper knowledge of what it is, and there's some who don't. So we just thought we'd start out with some basic concepts of AI, and then we'll move into some of the more macro visionary things on how the industries are being reshaped and really who stands to benefit the most from all these changes. And then another huge talking point is the gap. You really need to understand this gap between those who adapt or adopt and those who fall behind, because it is a game changer that I think you'll recognize when you sort of have a really better understanding of what that gap is, why you're going to want to really engage this technology sooner than later. Then, of course, this is a hot topic with a lot of the clients we meet about their children finishing college, not having jobs, so forth and so on, or what are my kids going to do in the future? This is a very engaging topic that we look forward to sharing with you. And then finally, we're going to talk about how this impacts people financially as well as intellectually, and really how we look at things from macro wealth standpoint, from a financial standpoint, because it really needs to be part of everybody's plan. And if it's not, then you're going to be missing out on some great things. And so with that being said, as mentioned before, it's about 40 to 45 minutes. And so thanks everybody for attending. And those who have not been able to get on board, we are recording it so we can get it out to you as well. I do need to give Seth's going to give our disclaimer, because Seth is our chief compliance officer. This is his job. So we'll let him take the disclaimer from here, because this is one of his areas of expertise.
That's correct. And really, we put the disclaimer on all of our presentations, but I think it's a good time to remind everybody that this event is not intended to be financial advice. It's intended to be informational and educational. Everyone, if you're looking to make decisions based off of what we discussed here this evening, it's important that you consult with your financial professional prior to making any decisions, so that way they can help you determine what's best for your situation, taking things into account such as your risk tolerance and your objectives. Now, we did name this event the AI Supersonic Tsunami, not because that's how we see it, but because the people who are experts and engineers in this space, this is exactly how they describe it. So we have a couple of short clips here, one of Elon Musk and one of Dario Amodei, describing in their own words exactly what they see coming down the pike.
And there's a little delay on the audio with the.
I call AI and robotics the supersonic tsunami.
Yes.
Which maybe is a little alarming.
I think it's good. It's good. Well, because the world needs a wake-up call. Right. This is important for folks to grok, because I don't want to leave people depressed. I want people to understand what's coming. So we're basically demonetizing everything. I mean, labor becomes the cost of capex and electricity. AI is basically intelligence available at a de minimis price. So you're able to produce almost anything. Things get down to basic costs of materials and electricity, right? So people can have whatever stuff they want, whatever services they need.
Yes.
It's not, when we say universal high income, it sounds like it's a tax and redistribute, but that's not the case.
I think my best guess for how this will manifest is that prices will drop.
Yeah.
So as the efficiency of production or the provision of services drops, prices will drop. I mean, prices in dollar terms are the ratio between the output of goods and services and the money supply.
Sure.
So if your output of goods and services increases faster than the money supply, you will have deflation, or vice versa. So
it's a good thing we're growing the money supply so quickly then.
right. Exactly. Yes, that's why I can't let's not worry about growing the money supply. It won't matter because the output of goods and services actually will grow faster than the money supply, and I think we'll be in this. And this is a prediction I think some others have made, but I will add to it, which is that I think governments will actually be pushing to increase money supply, like
Faster?
Yes, they won't be able to waste the money fast enough, which is saying something for
But
government.
isn't it crazy how close those timelines just randomly worked out? I mean, at the rate, because we're expanding the national debt, not because we're anticipating AI. We were going to do that no matter what.
Yes.
And so it's like right on the edge of becoming Argentina.
But yeah, it's
But
just
right at the time that
as the
AI is-
productivity is going to improve dramatically, and it is improving dramatically. I think we'll see. I think we may see high double-digit output of goods and services. We have to be a little careful about how economists measure things.
Yes.
Yeah, GDP sucks isn't measured.
Totally
And
agree.
Yes. So that's the first video.
Do you want a particular kind of coffee?
No, I don't drink coffee. I think I'll be fine. Yeah.
People inherently distrust anybody who claims to be doing good.
But I wouldn't look at what people say. I would look at what people do. The economic implications are going to be enormous. The geopolitical implications are going to be enormous. The safety.
Dario, isn't this a bit like rich people saying capitalism is bad?
My view isn't that AI is bad. My view is that we need to steer AI in the right direction. It's as if this tsunami is coming at us, and yet people are coming up with these explanations for, oh, it's not actually a tsunami. That's just a trick of the light.
As the incumbent leaders in this space, you get some kind of a regulatory capture where it becomes harder for the new people coming in as well, right?
I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah. So, as they said there, the pace of change so far is unlike anything we've seen before, and its impact is expected to be broad. But what is AI? And so, for some in the audience, you may follow it closely and have a good mental picture of what the technology is. But many may have only seen headlines or may not have even used an AI tool because it either seems daunting or complex. So I figured that we would start with just some basics and then we'll work our way up from there. So perhaps a good place to start is actually with a quick trivia question for the audience. So for our members who are joining us here, if everybody could get ready to type their answer into the chat, we're going to see who provides the correct answer first and get you guys a prize. And the question is, when you hear Chat GPT, what does the GPT stand for? I should have had some Jeopardy music here. So let's see.
Anybody chiming in there?
I don't see any responses yet. Does anybody have any guesses? See if we get one in.
There's a guess.
All right, here we go. All right, so Sarah actually was our first response, and she got the answer correct. So if you guys are not looking at your screen or didn't see the message come through, GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which is probably a new combination of words, but a helpful analogy to kind of think of what this really is would be to imagine like a soundboard with all the little knobs and dials, kind of like what you would see in a professional recording studio. There we go, got a picture there. So if you imagine this model, initially each of those little knobs are set to 0, but as the program is trained, the knobs are dialed in to produce the desired outcome. So if you were to imagine that you're training a model to recognize images of dogs, you would want it to be able to identify, in this example, whether there is or is not a dog in the image that you're providing. And so the way that you would go about this to train the model, you would show it millions of photos that have already been determined to either have or not have a dog in the image. With each image that goes through that process, the program is determining which path needs to be taken through the various connections between those nodes in order to get to the other side or to get to the answer. And so when you run this process over and over and the images are fed through the program until just the right settings have been tuned so that the model produces the correct answer, no matter if it's a photo from the training set or if it's a brand new photo that it's never seen before. Each of the little knobs or the little dials in this example, they represent an artificial neuron, and their exact tuning and their relationship to one another is what makes the model unique. And so you may have heard some of these programs referred to as neural nets. And the reason for this is twofold. The first is pretty straightforward. Neurons were the direct inspiration for the design. But when you plot the connections between these nodes, you get an image that's eerily similar to what pathways in the brain look like. This analogy of a soundboard is also helpful for picturing or understanding the need for additional compute. I'm sure everybody's heard about this drive to increase compute and to buy GPUs. Well, while a small model can be trained to recognize images of dogs and it can solve increasingly more complex problems, it requires a larger soundboard, so to say, with more dials that can be tuned to take into account the additional variables for the new type of problem that you're trying to solve. And so one of the great things about AI, and it's kind of the first time a product has ever done this, is that it can actually explain itself to you. So whether you know it or not, everybody who's on the call does have access to Google's free AI tool. So if you simply open your phone or a tablet or laptop, go to Google, put it into the AI mode, and you can just start having a conversation with it directly. It's a great way to learn what it can and also what it cannot do. But you'll quickly get a good idea of the areas where it performs very well. And then, of course, there are some areas where it's lacking. And it's kind of a process of discovery. This sort of uneven development or advancement is pretty common for developing technologies. I do want to emphasize that we are early in this technological shift, as agents, which are separate from models, are starting to come online in a big way. We've got some fun photos there to show you the difference between models and agents. But on a more serious
That's
note,
my old man world, Seth. That's the old man world. And this is the new world. You're talking about the new models and agents. These are the old models and agents.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, you do have Daniel Craig there, so at least one of the agents is new.
True.
But a good way to think about this, the distinction between models and agents, is that the model is the brain. The agent, though, is the digital worker that takes that brain and uses it to complete tasks. And so while models understand language and they're exceptional at pattern recognition, agents, they start to incorporate tools, objectives, and some autonomy. I don't know if anybody has heard of OpenClaw, but we recently saw an open source model that is designed to help develop these agents called OpenClaw, which became the fastest growing open source software in only a matter of days. The models are here and they're improving, but while agents have just started, I'm sorry, but they're improving, but the agents are just entering the picture and really starting to be developed and be able to accomplish tasks for their users.
And the thing is, too, Seth, I mean, these agents are just they're working 24/7. And so the amazing thing about the agent space, which is accelerating like exponentially, is that in the future, there's going to be rewards that are going to be put out for these agents. And you can talk maybe briefly on that, because this is some of the future of finance. The payment rails on agents and how these particular technologies get, quote, compensated and then and given back to the end user. But yeah, it's huge. It's absolutely tremendous to think what these agents can do from a financial standpoint.
Absolutely. And to your point there, Mart, when you're using agents, one of the biggest benefits of these tools is, like you said, they can work 24/7, 365, but it's not like you or I working 24/7, 365. They're working at incredible speeds. And so, you mentioned payment rails there. What I'll say is, unfortunately, the fiat payment system that exists today was not built for instantaneous global payments. So I think it could be the case that digital assets, such as stable coins or Bitcoin, will become the default currency of choice as we start to see these agents roll out.
Yeah, but you can't chop up pennies, right? And pennies are kind of a thing about the past anyway. And so these micro payments are going to be multiple decimal points deep, and there's no way that the traditional world of finance can manage that. It has to be put on the blockchain, and that's how these things are going to be allocated into the future. It's going to be absolutely mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
So really, from a big macro standpoint here, we're all very aware of how these industries are being changed in a very rapid fashion. But the question is going to be who's going to be out there, who's going to be benefiting the most. So give us a little perspective on that.
Yeah, well, there's certainly no shortage of stories in the news today as far as AI development and capabilities are concerned. However, for today's meeting, there were a few stories in particular that I wanted to pull to kind of highlight some of these areas and kind of speak to the benefit and where it's being, centralized, so to say. So the first, article here that I pulled is a study that was done by Microsoft. They did it in conjunction with OpenAI. And so what they did was they took 10 case studies that were intentionally difficult to diagnose, and they gave those 10 case studies to the ChatGPT model, and they also gave those same 10 case studies to practicing physicians. And what they found was that the AI model was able to correctly diagnose 8 out of the 10 cases, while the doctors, who, to be fair, they were told they could not use the internet, they could not reference texts, they could not call a colleague, but the doctors correctly diagnosed 2 out of the 10. And so over time, as the capabilities expand, we do expect to see more of healthcare done through either these models or an agent directly. To that end, we actually don't have to look very far. It turns out that last year in April, China actually opened the first fully automated hospital to the public. This automated hospital has 42 AI doctors across 21 clinical specialties. This group of AI doctors achieves a 93% diagnostic accuracy rate, and they can see thousands of patients in a week, which is something that would take a normal doctor a couple of months. This hospital is able to cover 300 plus diseases. And like I said, it opened its doors to the public in April of 2025. And since then, they've been expanding their capabilities and working with major model companies in China to make it more cost effective and to be able to bring in more patients to get more access to healthcare there. And then finally, the third story that I pulled here is in reference to a law firm. This law firm is called Freshfield, and they have partnered with Anthropic. Through this partnership, they've launched AI tools in 33 of their offices. These AI tools are helping their attorneys with things like due diligence, case management, multi-jurisdictional surveys, compliance assessments, and restructuring deals. The agreement that's in place between Anthropic and Freshfield actually allows Anthropic, whose CEO we heard from at the beginning of this conversation, to improve their products so that way they can then turn around and push it out to the end user. So it might be the case one day, soon, but definitely not today. I would not recommend this, that if you're in an ER, or perhaps if you're seeking legal counsel, you don't have to go any further than just taking out your phone and opening an app. But when it comes to who will benefit most, and I want to emphasize most here, I really want to drive home the fact that you do not need to be a large company to harness AI. AI, at the end of the day, is leveraged intelligence for the individual. Now, individuals are going to use it in companies, but that's very different. It still comes back to the individual. Now, large companies and organizations, they may feel like they're in a position to capture a bulk of the value and kind of keep new players from entering the market. However, it's very hard to turn a large ship. And so as a brief example, I'd like to share what I call a tale of two companies, both of which are telehealth. They have two very different approaches to scaling their business, though. And those two companies, as are on screen, are MedV and HIMSS. So to the consumer, these companies seem to be very similar. They both offer health-related treatments directly to consumers online. They focus on convenience and privacy. Their key categories are weight loss, sexual health, and hair loss supplements. Both of them offer an online client intake form, remote prescriptions, and products shipped directly to the customer's door. But when you look under the hood, they're completely different. It's like looking at an internal combustion engine versus an electric vehicle. When you look at MedV is a company that currently has two employees, the founder and his brother. The founder started the company in 2024. He started the company with about $20,000 in startup capital, which, if you compare that to the average college student's cost of education, it's much, much less. And he had a half dozen AI tools. He used those tools to build his website, to design ads, to script his customer service, and to help him with internal analytics. In 2025, MedV had revenue of $401 million with a 16% profit margin. And again, these are two brothers. HIMSS, on the other hand, has 2,442 full-time employees. In order to get the company going, they raised over $200 million in venture capital funding, and that was prior to their 2021 SPAC merger. That company today operates on a 5% profit margin. So the key takeaway here when it comes to where the benefits are going to flow, and specifically where the most benefit is going to be, it's going to be to the creative problem solvers who are willing to learn the technology and apply it to their business.
And it's already impacting dentistry too. I know there's companies out of Saudi Arabia. They're doing incredible AI integration. There's one here in the States as well. A friend of mine's also developing one in dentistry. So it's no industry is going to be missing this train. Now, really, the next one is talking about this gap, and I think this emerging gap between who adapts and who does not is a critical thing. Tim and I have been at a number of AI meetings recently. One of the founders of OpenAI, they were speaking, and what they were saying is that AI is going to increase business efficiency, practice efficiency, about 25 to 40% over and above what they're already doing. But he says the key is if you don't engage AI into your business model, you'll probably be out of business within 18 to 36 months. It's going to be a very short time frame to do that. So I'd say the absolute key is managing that gap. So they say, what are the business owners? What are the dentists? What are the orthodontists? Any business owner is what are they going to do with that additional 25 to 40% of time efficiency to build their business, whether it's building relationships, more one-on-one, all these different things are what's going to keep us relevant. Because if we don't do these things, we may become irrelevant.
You're absolutely right there. And the fact is that the emerging gap between those who adopt AI and those who don't is only going to continue as the AI capabilities progress. New technology provides leverage to those people who are willing to adapt to it, but those who do not are not only going to miss the opportunity, but it's not going to matter how skilled they are, how experienced they are, or how well they performed in years past. The way of solving problems will be totally different. And to your point there, Mart, you mentioned like a dentist or a small business owner who leverages AI in order to get that extra 25 or 30% efficiency. Well, the fact is that that's at today's capability. And so if we run this out 12 months, 18 months, 2 years out, as that capability increases, you're going to see that the people who adopt this, they're not working off a 25% additional margin. They're at 50, 100, 150 times the productivity of the people who thought that this was just another fancy tool or a software subscription that I don't need. But it's very much the case that that gap is not going away, and over time it's only going to increase. A great example of this in recent history or memory, if you're Mart's age.
Don't make me feel old now, Seth. Don't make me feel old. A lot of people on this call know this, know Bjorn Borg, but some don't know Bjorn Borg. I love the guy.
Well, for me, it was recent history. But Bjorn Borg, for those of you who don't know, he was the #1 ranked men's tennis player at the age of 26. And what he decided to do was retire young. And so he took a few years off, and then he decided he was going to try and make a comeback into tennis. He figured, hey, I was ranked #1. I'm still a young guy. Let's just jump back into it. But in the time in between, what he didn't realize was, well, I say he didn't realize, what he failed to understand the gravity of was the transition away from wooden rackets to the heavier graphite rackets. So when he returned, not only could he not find anyone to make rackets for him, he had to have them custom made. But when he made his comeback, he did not win a single match. And so I think this is a great example to show that it's important to evolve with technology, not to force old familiar solutions. As we start to see these capabilities increase, we want to emphasize that now is the time to embrace the technology, because the gap that we're seeing is only going to grow as those capabilities improve.
And of course, as mentioned before, this is a big question that a lot of people's minds right now. What are kids going to do when this technology comes into our society? And it's already coming. So I think this will be a very engaging topic to sort of touch on, so that maybe give some reassurance to the folks on the call, whether it's grandkids or their own children, that it's still going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, to your point, Mart, you are right. We're already seeing the impact of AI in the students that are graduating from college. Unfortunately, the unemployment rate today for a recent college graduate is currently 5.6%, which is higher than the general population's unemployment rate of 4.2. To put this in some additional context, the unemployment rate for individuals who are in their 40s is 3.1. Stanford University also looked into this. They did a study here where they tracked employment data in AI-exposed occupations from the time that ChatGPT was launched in November of 2022 through early, this year, 2026. And what they found was that there is a 16% decline in employment for workers who were between the ages of 22 and 25 years old. Entry-level software engineers were down 20%. Call center workers were down 15%. Meanwhile, mid-career workers stayed flat. And so, many companies have come out and they've directly said that they don't need as many entry-level workers. At the end of the day, those are the kinds of tasks that AI is currently good at. But the issue with this is that those entry-level positions were traditionally how recent grads and young job seekers gained the necessary skills and experience to later fill a more senior position. The way I like to think of this is if you imagine kind of a labor ladder that people have to climb over the course of their careers. AI is slowly but surely creeping up that ladder as it can handle more and more complex issues. So the bright side here, the thing that I really want people to take away from this is that it has never been easier to start a business than it is today. For young people, the best thing they can do to position themselves for a workforce that has both human and AI workers is to own their own future. And as we saw with Medvi just a little bit ago, a small, dedicated team is able to outwork and outcompete much larger companies thanks to the leverage provided by some of these tools. If we think back, to the Bjorn Borg example just a moment ago, entrepreneurs like Medvi are the players leveraging new technologies while companies like HIMS are trying to solve the same problem using outdated technology and thinking of the problems in the same way they've always approached them. So what I would say to our audience here is if there's a young person in your life that you care deeply about, maybe you're thinking about them right now, and you want to make sure to provide them the best opportunity. One of the most impactful things that you could do or that you could offer to do for them is to cover the premium subscription of one of the frontier models. Most of these models have a couple different tiers, and they typically start around $20 per month. But this puts them in a position to be curious and to learn how to leverage this technology as it develops with them over time. Just like in the Bjorn Borg example, you can provide them with a modern tool that allows them to outcompete and succeed against the much larger players. And it's kind of like effectively giving them that heavier graphite racket to go play against people with wooden rackets.
And I know, Seth, and there's a number of different models out there. I mean, how would you recommend to get started with those types of different models, entry point and maybe and beyond?
Yeah, there are several different frontier models. Any one of them could be a good place to start. The simplest place to start would probably be ChatGPT. It's widely recognized. People, there are resources around it. But the thing here is the skills and experience that they gain using a frontier model like this, it's going to translate to any one of the other models. So I know that it's very common in coding, and I'm sure it'll become more common in more professions where people are using multiple AI tools and they're effectively just coordinating a conversation between them. And it's that aggregation of resources and the ability to understand which model can do which task and where their strengths and weaknesses are that allows them to leverage that as much as possible. So I would say, yeah, start with something easy like ChatGPT, and as they learn and they stick with it, they're likely to branch out into other models, and that's just going to help fuel their path forward.
That's great information. Yeah, on a personal note, my daughter just graduated from Miami of Ohio last year and a half or so ago. One of her very closest friends is out, and he's in that unemployed bucket, Seth. And my daughter says, "Hey, can you talk to my friend on this thing?" And so actually, I spoke with him over the weekend, and he's a data analyst. Now, when people say data analyst, I'm like, could be a little problem there because that is the type of program that could be taken over by AI. But I did participate as part of this one podcast where the gentleman said there's over 30 million small businesses in America today, or businesses in general. And what he was saying is that the job for that age group, to your point, is to get these models or language models into these young kids' hands as early as possible, because every single one of those small businesses, like my orthodontic practice, even our macro wealth practice, anybody's business, we don't know how to integrate AI. So the ability to integrate AI into a business, whatever business that may be, that is going to be an opportunity for almost every young person, because old people like me, people 40, we just, it's a little overwhelming. How do we, fit this into what we're, doing business wise? Or it's just another thing we have to worry about. If you could have an integrator, an AI, a young kid coming in, whether it's teenager, early 20s, early 30s, to help integrate this, wow, that opportunity is great for those folks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, integrating and being that AI coordinator for one or multiple companies is likely to be an excellent career path for a number of years. But being intellectually curious, being willing to put in the work, looking to solve problems for other people, those are the skills that are always going to be in demand. We just may not know exactly which format they're going to take. Um, so when it comes to practical ways to position yourself financially and intellectually, the number one thing that you can do to put yourself in the best intellectual position is to be familiar with the technology. And like I said a moment ago, be continuously curious. As we said before, AI is the only product that's capable of explaining itself to you. So if you are unsure of what it can or can't do, or you just want to have a conversation with it, so you kind of understand, I hesitate to say psychology of the chatbot, but those are the kinds of things that you want to get a feel for. And so open a chat, start asking it questions, and work with it to identify ways that you can leverage the skills and the experience that you do have in the field of AI. Um, Financial positioning is a little bit trickier because each investor is obviously unique. Um, Leaders of these AI companies have all sorts of disagreements between them. Will we reach artificial general intelligence? Will AI be good or bad for humanity? Will we live in a world of abundance or abuse? Um, there is currently a major court battle going on between two of these guys, Sam Altman and Elon Musk, currently over the future of OpenAI. But I mention that here because there is one common theme that they all agree on, which is this: we need to build. We need to build chips. We need to build factories. We need to build data centers. We need to build energy production and storage. We need to build. There's a lot of building to be done. And it's not just the people who are at the front of this industry. The IEA estimates a 30% year over year growth in energy demand. So when it comes to financial positioning, I think it's wise to listen to these experts to hear what they're telling us that they expect, and especially because it's one of the only areas that they actually agree on. They're all looking at the same set of problems, approaching it in different ways, but they all acknowledge that we need to be building in this country. Clients who have worked with macro wealth, they'll know that we've been sharing some of these themes and looking at ways to help position clients who are at that stage of life to benefit from the value of this infrastructure build out, as well as energy and energy generation more specifically. But those are the areas that, when it comes to financial positioning, there's the most consensus, and the most experts are pointing us in that direction.
Yeah, and those typically fall within the alternative space type of look, those thematics. And so we've always been very high on that whole idea of having alternatives within a portfolio, whether it's Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or these other types of themes. I mean, it's just known that the amount of power, we are just so amazingly deficient on our power, as well as the technology to provide the power to us. It's so antiquated. I mean, that's why Elon's up, building space state powered data centers up in space, because he recognizes that that's unlimited power, and getting it down to the Earth is going to be an amazing technology to provide the needs, the demands that we have, because we are nowhere near close to being able to satisfy our future power needs. It's a little bit worrisome, and I think that's why too we're seeing more and more people. They're maybe pivoting away a little bit from the wind and solar. They're going more to the nuclear or maybe the hydrogen or other types of power. It's kind of all the above, should I say? And it really does come down.
That's correct. Yep, they're throwing everything at this problem. I mentioned the combination of energy generation and energy storage. We see a lot of these companies that are putting up these data centers. If they can't tie into the grid, or if they think there's going to be pushback at the municipality level, they're standing up their own energy generation right there. And in a lot of cases, they've found that pairing these data centers with a large battery bank is actually much more efficient for the AI training. And the reason being is because when you have all of these GPUs that are working in tandem, the power consumption goes up and goes down extremely quickly. You could, if you think of it like an orchestra, it's like having, you can go from having all the instruments playing all at once to just one, very quiet little flute, and then right back to all of the instruments. And so it turns out that the grid utilities are not great at managing that back and forth, but it turns out that batteries are very effective at doing that. And so, yeah, to your point, we need to continue to build, and we need to look at all energy options when it comes to producing the power that we're going to need.
And you also made a comment there, on top of the infrastructure, on top of the power, chips. I mean, there is just the need and the demand for chips. We can't even keep up doing that. And so you put all these pieces together, like, there's going to be a lot of, that's why you heard Elon say in the opening video, the productivity is going to be going up just tremendously, just because of the engagement of all these different technologies coming to a head.
Absolutely. So, kind of starting to wrap up, or in closing, we called this event the Supersonic Tsunami, but we want to make clear that this is not a warning. This is an invitation. And on that note, I'd like to share a couple of photographs here with the audience. These photographs are pulled from the National Archives. This is Fifth Avenue, New York. These photos are taken 12 years apart. The first image is the year 1900, and as you can see, it shows a very busy street filled with horse and buggies. Just 12 years later, the same street, there's not a single horse in view, and everyone is in an automobile. In the year 1900, it took only 12 years to revolutionize transportation, and that was 100 years ago, 100 years plus. The pace of change over the next few years is going to be swift. It's going to be faster than anything we've seen before. But the good news here is that we're still in the early stages, and that if people take, steps, they can ride this wave rather than being crushed by it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Seth, for that great presentation. You and I have spent many hours talking on this, and it won't be the last time. So I really appreciate your thoughts and your insight into this ever-evolving technology that is very exciting and needs to be engaged. So, and I thank all the participants. There are a number who signed up that wanted recording, so we'll get that out to you. If people don't have a copy of our book, we'd be more than happy to send you a copy of our book, The Retirement Smile. It's shows you ways not to take a pay cut in retirement. Many of you, our clients, have already heard that we have an annual event here in Chicago at the world-renowned Bleacher Center. We'd love for you to attend. It's on a date you can't forget. It's on September the 11th, on a Friday. And then we're also going to a Cubs game on Saturday. We rent it out a rooftop. So if you'd like to come, there's no charge to register, and we'd love to have you. It's already filling up quite a bit, but we really look forward to filling up the room. So you can scan the QR code if you so desire. And if you have any additional information or any other additional questions for us, here's our contact information, as well as if you have an interest in potentially having a little deeper conversation, whether it's planning in general and or these specific topics, that's a Calendly link to schedule a short conversation or short meeting. So I thank everybody for the time. If there's any questions out there, I see. Is there something in the chat there? I saw something pop up there. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody has. We do have some time here to do that. And thank you for your attention. Was that a question?
I've got the chat pulled up here. It wasn't a question; it was a thank you.
Okay.
And it looks like we also got some thanks there from Brett.
Okay.
Appreciate you guys coming.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Right. We'll give it maybe just a minute or two in case someone's typing something out. I don't want someone to start a question and put some time into it only for us to end the meeting.
Yeah.
So
Cut them off.
feel free. Yeah, exactly. So feel free to if you're working on something, finish it up. But also at this point in the conversation, if someone wants to raise their hand, we can also selectively unmute people. And it might be a little easier to ask the question that way.
Well, I think we may be good to go, my friend.
I think so. Now's the last chance. If anybody has any question, you better put something in there because I think we're about done.
And if there's
so.
any orthodontists out there that are going to AAO, track me down. I will be there. So
that's right. Yep. Get some good pictures there.
yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
All right, everybody.
Well,
have a good night.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.